And in fact, Naledi, some of the victims that we have spoken to in the past have indicated that they're struggling still to come to terms with the havoc that Phakathi had meted out for so many years, as you correctly pointed out, in the Ekurhuleni area. Most of them were teenagers at the time that they had been raped, and he would pretend to be an electrician, going to the homes of his victims, and also instances where these rapes would have taken place in front of the relatives of some of the victims inside the house as well. You would know, of course, as you indicated, he did plead guilty to the charges against him, and we were expecting the mitigation and aggravating circumstances to be argued here in court this morning. You would recall, Naledi, the last time we were inside this court, the defense had indicated that they wanted to bring, a psychological report to this court ahead of the sentencing. And I'm certainly getting some indications at this particular stage that the defense was not able to secure that report. That might mean that there might be a delay in this particular matter, but certainly once court gets underway, we will get an official word from the court about whether the arguments in mitigation and aggravation will continue here this morning. This is justice, certainly, that the victims have been waiting for so many years, at least the ones that we have spoken to. Not many, Naledi, have wanted to speak over the years, but certainly those that we've managed to speak to. One of the young ladies that I spoke to is now in university here in Johannesburg, and she says, she's trying to go on with her studies. Her family has been supporting her. They've been trying to come to terms with what has happened to them. And Phakathi has certainly been described as one of the country's worst serial rapists, in that he pleaded guilty to over 100, as you have indicated. And we'll have to wait and see whether that report will be brought to court this morning. But I'm certainly getting some indications at this point, Naledi, that the defense was unable to secure that report. That will certainly be confirmed once the matter begins here this morning. That means that what we were expecting, Naledi, was that those arguments in mitigation and aggravation were expected to be held today. Possibly we could have had the sentencing tomorrow, but the absence of this report would certainly mean that the case might be postponed to a later date. That will certainly be confirmed once court gets underway. But all indications at this stage are that it seems that report may not be in the possession of the defense at this particular stage.
Yeah. Well, two things, Griselda. 148 charges. It's incredibly significant. That. Any sense at this point of what the possible sentence could be for the convict? And then, of course, have you seen the presence of some of the survivors?
Naledi, from the time that we had been attending this case, none of the survivors have wanted to come to court. In fact, when I spoke to one of them, I had to go through to the residence where she was staying, and every time we'd come to court, I think the added trauma of what had taken place to them, and looking at Phakathi as he sits here and agrees to having done what he did, you would know that the National Prosecuting Authority had indicated that he was linked to these matters via DNA, and the survivors have certainly not wanted to come to court. I mean, wreaking havoc in the Ekurhuleni for so many years, I guess some of them would have even wanted to try and forget about the trauma that they've been through. Being here is some sort of secondary victimization, if I can put it that way, Naledi, in that some of them have tried to move on with their lives, as difficult as it may have been, but they certainly don't want to face a Phakathi or look at him sitting inside this court. Some of them have said that they've tried to pick up the pieces of their broken lives, but we're not expecting this court to be lenient on the part of sentence. While I cannot say, Naledi, exactly what sentence this court will mete out, but we're expecting this court to be incredibly harsh, given the fact that Phakathi has also pleaded guilty to all of those charges, in that he doesn't deny that he had gone on the rampage and raped so many women. He doesn't deny any of what has been brought before this court, in that these were unsuspecting victims where he would walk into homes, pretend to be an electrician. His victims were incredibly young and have had to move into adult life, with the scar, of being so violated by Nkosinathi Phakathi. And, many of them have decided it's pointless for them to come here to court. But I think what would be best for them in the instance where you ask me, Naledi, about whether, in terms of the sentence that will be meted out to him, I cannot say for sure what that will be, but we're expecting this court, not to show any leniency when it comes to such heinous crimes that have been committed against so many women.